Hello, dear friends. Today I read the story The Forest Witch by Johan Krohn. It was in the earliest springtime. In the shade the air was still quite cold, but where the clear and strong sunshine streamed down, one could see that spring had come, for there the blossoms were beginning to stretch upward on their tiny stalks. A couple of children were walking through the forest, a 10-year-old girl named Nina and her little brother Johannes. They were seeking flowers. Nina had to find them because the flowers were too tiny and much too hidden for a small child as Johannes to discover them from himself, but she always let him have the pleasure of picking them. It was such a joyous spring walk that Nina did not notice how far they were straying away from their grandmother's house at the back of the hill. This little hut had been their home only for a short time. When their dear father and mother died, their grandmother had kindly taken them to live with her, and this was their first walk in the forest. At last Nina thought they ought to go back, but just as she turned around with Johannes by the hand, who should stand before them, but a hideous old creature more glaring and frightful than you can imagine. "What are you doing here, you wretched children?" she shrieked. "Are you plucking flowers from my forest? Then shall I pluck you, you may believe." "Oh, pardon us," cried Nina. "We did not know that we must not pick flowers here. We are strangers in the forest. Pray, pray, pardon us." "Snicky-snack," answered the terrific old witch, for such a creature was. "Don't talk to me. Never pay any attention to what children say, nor to old folks' talk either, for the matter. Indeed, I don't. Snickety-snack, snickety-snack. But it's not you that I want, silly girl. It's the boy there who has offended me. The little rascal. It's he who picked the flowers. Now I shall take him." "Oh, take me instead," cried Nina in terror, flinging her arms around her brother. "It's my fault. I showed him the flowers and let him pick them. You've no right to take him. Oh, do take me. He's too little." "Snickety-snack," answered the witch. "What a lot of talk. But you're right. The boy is too small to come into my service, so I suppose I shall have to take you. Now listen well to what I say. Spring and summer are coming, and I shall have no work for you then. So I shall not trouble myself about you for the present. But when autumn has come and gone, and all the leaves and flowers have disappeared, then are we very busy in the underground world. Then you may believe that I shall teach you how to work, and I live deep down, very, very deep. Now you may go, but I will make a bargain with you. When the last flower is faded, listen, when the last flower is faded, meet me here on this spot. Oh, oh." The old witch stopped to think what she could best threaten Nina with. Her wicked eyes glared around for an instant till she noticed that Nina stood with her arms about her little brother, ready to ward off any evil that might come upon him. "Or I shall come and catch this little rascal and twist his arms and legs all out of joint," screamed the witch, shaking her knotty stick a little at little Johannes. Then, after a dark glance at Nina, she shuffled off through the forest, with the crows shrieking after her and the leaves and flowers trembling on every side. As soon as the witch was out of sight, Nina hastened home with Johannes. Like a kind sister, she suited her frightened pace to his, so that she should not stumble and fall. The poor little boy had been so terrified at the witch that he had not in the least understood the cruel threats she had used against him, or the dreadful fate that was in store for Nina. Sorry. Nina was rejoiced that this was so, for then he could not tell their grandmother what the witch had said, and she herself would not disclose the dreadful doom hanging over her. She was determined that the poor grandmother should not be made anxious and sorrowful as long as it could be helped. Shortly after this, the spring burst forth in all its power and beauty, and the blossoms shot up everywhere, in the woods, the fields, the meadows, and the gardens. Nina welcomed them as her dearest friends. She would protect her against the forest witch. So long as she had a single one of these, she would not have to go down into the dark earth to save the hideous creature. Nina had always loved flowers, but never had the thought so much about them as now. Yet, alas, spring soon turned into summer, and summer went faster than ever before, it seemed to poor Nina. The tears streamed down her cheeks as she saw the blue cornflowers fall before the reaper's scythe when the grain was cut in harvest time. But Nina could still hope even then, for the roses continued to bloom in grandmother's old rose bush outside the door of the hut. Nina kissed them and begged them to last as long as ever they could, and so they did, the dear friendly roses. When the last little rose had at length withered, autumn had almost passed, and the many-colored leaves were dropping from the trees by thousands. Yet Nina discovered to her joy and comfort that there were flowers still. Along the roadside stood the simple, hardy wild aster, which bloomed on, although the autumn winds and rains destroyed everything else. Winter began, but so mildly that it seemed as if it was still autumn. When the asters finally disappeared, other help came to Nina, for the hazel bush was completely hoaxed by the mild weather and thought it was spring. So it began to unfold its yellow catkins, standing beautiful and bright as one saw it between the bare trees over the hedges. So, even when the winter was far advanced, Nina was still saved from going to the witch. But this could not long continue. Cold weather must soon come, because grandmother has said that Christmas was near. And suddenly winter did come in earnest, with its icy frosts and drifting snows. For 5 days it was impossible to get out of the hut, because the wind kept whirling the snow into high drifts all about it. But when the 6th day came, the wind abated and the snow lay peacefully on the ground. Now Nina dared no longer to stay in the house, for surely all the flowers were dead and buried under the cold snow after this bitter storm. She must go and keep her compact with the witch. So, gathering together all her courage, she stole out of the house without being seen by anyone. A minute, please. Outside, she stood still for an instant, took a last look at the hut, which now seemed so cozy and dear, whispered farewell, and started on her way to the forest. But she had gathered too little courage, after all, for it melted away immediately when she discovered the witch a few steps from the door, standing in the little roadside garden waiting for her. "You've been rather slow about keeping to your bargain," exclaimed the witch angrily. "It was just coming after you." "Oh, do not make me go with you," cried Nina. In her agony she fell down upon the snow at the witch's great feet and besought her wildly, "Let me be free. Oh, do let me be free." "Snickety-snack," snapped the witch. "Up with you. No nonsense." "Is there not a single flower to save me?" wailed Nina. She half rose and, fairly beside herself with fright and despair, began to scrape the snow away from the garden bed at the side of the path, trying to find a flower. "Oh, yes, look if you like. Snickety-snack, laughed the witch, her face glowing with exultation at Nina's trouble. But an instant after, her countenance became filled with fury, for where Nina had cleared the snow away, there appeared a plant with fresh dark green leaves and white flower buds. Nina clasped her hands together in great joy and thankfulness. Then, breaking off a bud, she lifted it up high towards the witch and rushed away into the hut. The witch, in her disappointment and vexation, sprang about so wildly in the snow that it rose in a cloud all about her, and Nina never saw her again. Safe at home in the little hut, Nina now told her adventure, and the grandmother took the little girl's sweet, frightened face between her two old hands and kissed her forehead many times. Faithfully every day, Nina went up to pay a loving visit to the little Christmas rose in the garden, for that was the flower that saved her. And the whole winter long it could be found fresh and beautiful here and there under the snow. Though no other blossoms dare come forth to face the snows and frosts of deep winter, the Christmas rose ventures bravely out into the bleak weather, and with modest and serene courage holds her own against the powers. The snow lying over it keeps it from freezing, and if one brushes away his beautiful covering, the Christmas rose appears with its lovely, wild, gold-scented blossoms, laughing at the frost. It blossoms steadily on until it can say good day to spring's first blossom, the little snowdrop. And so, through all the year, there are flowers blooming in our dear northern land, Denmark. Thus it was that Nina escaped the witch, who, being a forest witch, did not know the Christmas rose, because it is a garden flower. This wonderful little story was written in 1916. Have a nice Sunday. Bye.